Welcome to Eye Contact, a video news programme on issues and controversies in ophthalmology, which has been sponsored by EUROTIMES. I'm Paul Rosen, and we're here at the XXXIII Congress at the ESCRS in London. Today, running an ophthalmic clinic is running a business. And what we would like to do in this interview is explore the role of leadership in this process. And it's a great pleasure to welcome Professor Keith Willey, who's from the London Business School. Keith. The first question I have for you is, how important do you think leadership is in the medical practice?
I think it's crucially important. And perhaps in the past we didn't fully recognise how important it was, but now we do. Certainly whenever we've got groups of people, whether it's in the army, in business, even in our local scout troop, we need a leader. In medical practices often that's been neglected. And the reason I say it's really got to be looked at these days is due to the pace of change. And given that the whole medical profession needs to adapt rapidly, without leadership, those who don't adapt will be left behind, and they really, really need to think about leadership.
What do you think the sort of particular features of leadership are? For example, is it setting the cultural attitude of the clinic?
Right.
So what does the leader really contribute to that process?
Yes, I mean, it does fall into the category of something that's a little bit intangible and people find it hard to get a hold of. I would just put it like this, that if you're in, for example, a private practice, you might be the owner, you might be doing the surgery, you might be doing a lot of the administrative tasks, and then perhaps the bit you've neglected is the leadership. And so what's missing? Well, how do we know if something's missing? What's missing is when our people say, we don't know why we're here, we don't know where we're going, and they feel demotivated. Perhaps they start to leave and so forth. And when they haven't, if you like, pulled together and been galvanized, then you'll soon find out that they perhaps might have gone on okay for a while, but then they hit the rocks. So what is it? It's really about the vision piece, and then it's about the people. Although I'd be very wary of making it very prescriptive. But the one thing I can tell you is it isn't, and that is it isn't doing the surgery, and it isn't doing the administrative tasks.
So what's the difference between being a leader and being a manager in the clinic?
Right. Well, I mean, the classic definition, if you like, differentiation in the management text is that the leader is effectively asking what needs to be done. And the manager is saying how it's going to be done. So in other words, the leader has to set the goals. And observations of people who are identified as leaders has shown that, if you like, they're not quite so good at process and so forth, and they do go on gut feel. But somebody has to, if you like, set that vision out and get the whole organisation to jump over a higher bar. That's when a manager can come in and say, okay, I can work with this, and here's how we could implement it.
And do you have to be a good leader to be a good businessman, or a good businessman has to be a good leader? Right.
Well, I think whether we're in private practice or whether we're in a sort of public service running a department, the fact is that you could still be a decent leader even if you're really not that suited to it. You can play out of position, in other words. But I think it's incumbent upon whoever's calling the shots that you get the best leader you possibly can. So for an owner-manager, that might be coming to the conclusion that they're not the best leader in certain senses. And then, if you like, they need to mitigate that and find people around them who can pick up the reins.
How important is a formal qualification, for example, an MBA, for people working in that sort of environment?
Right. Well, to begin with, I think that many clinics could benefit from, if you like, good old-fashioned management disciplines.
Sorry to stop you there. Could you go back to drunk again?
Okay.
Could you go back to your question?
Yes,
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Doing fantastic though.
Okay. So Keith, how important do you think a formal qualification is, for example, MBA?
Well, the MBA can be very useful because in a very concentrated form, it takes anybody who's studying an MBA through, if you like, the full menu of what management and leadership is about. Some people mistake an MBA as being something which is going to, if you like, help you understand process, accounting, finance, those things. it certainly does that. But I would say an MBA can be even more important in that it leads you towards understanding yourself and your leadership style and those things. I think most really reputable MBA courses would focus more on the leadership. So the management piece comes as a kind of base thing, if you like. And for example, I was talking to somebody today who is in private practice. They hired a manager to come in who installed good practices, good management practices, made that a more profitable and a steadier practice. But then they'd done their job and they were fired, and the clinic has learned the things they've been taught and have carried on. But that clinic lacks leadership. It now really needs a leader to take it to the next stage.
Okay. If we move on and just ask you, what do you think the main leadership challenges are in a medical practice?
Right, well, one of the crucial things is understanding the environment in which that practice is operating, which is moving, whether it's the technology that's moving, the demographic shifts, or the reimbursement regime or regulation. So the leader has to, if you like, make sure that the department or the practice is constantly interrogating that and saying, what does it mean for us? And then getting everybody to crystallize that into the vision, into this stretch goal. After that, I would say after those two things, the next thing then is people. Selecting the right people, bringing the right people on. And you'll notice I haven't talked about business planning, I haven't talked about finance or any of those things, because those will all follow. And obviously if you hire the good people, they will bring those with them. So that's the thing, I think. Understanding the environment, setting the vision, and then getting the right people.
Thank you very much for the interview, and thank you for joining us. For more information on this and related topics, visit us at eurotimes.org. Thank you.